Hello and welcome back to Suspended Fanimation. I'm your host, Dennis Bithoulkas, and it's time for another episode of Is It Worth My Time? And this time around, it's Guardians of the Galaxy 3, Volume 3. There we go. The last in the series by James Gunn. Welcome, everybody. Let me take care of some business first, then we'll get down to it. If you like what you see here, like, share, and subscribe. If you're still on the fence about subscribing, take a look at the video that pops up at the very end here. YouTube takes the algorithms of all the stuff you've been watching and tries to match it as best as possible. And if you like what you see there, please hit that just subscribe button down right below there. And if you want to know when I'm going to be on live again next, go over to suspendedfanimation.com. Take a look at the schedule I have up there. Sometimes it gets all foobarred depending on work and how things are going. But it's mostly right for the most part. It's kind of light at the moment because there's not that much stuff up there. But there's also links to my social media there, all links to my pages as well. And by the way, I don't know if you know, but I'm also on YouTube Music now. So if you want to do podcasts, if you want to run it as a podcast, I'm on YouTube Music. It was news to me as well. But yes, all these videos, all 1,000 and I think 50 some odd videos that I have going on right now are all streaming on YouTube Music. So you can actually listen instead of watch, or you can watch and listen. Depends on how you want to do it. Hey, Marks, how's it going? And thank you, Movie Fanobi, for the pre-stream boost there. That was nice of you. Didn't need to do that. Also, if you take a look at that suspendedfanimation.com, I have the schedule of all the stuff that's coming up. Geek wise, not everything, but a good majority of stuff that's up there, the big stuff, if you will. So it's up there as well. So, as I said, I was going to do a non spoiler version to begin with here, and then I'll do a spoiler version afterwards. Kind of hard to do. So, if you haven't seen the first two Guardians of the Galaxy movies and I don't know, the holiday special, you can kind of get away with not seeing it in here. But if you haven't seen the first two Guardians of the Galaxy movie, why are you here? It's like walking into Return of the Jedi and you haven't seen, A New Hope or Empire Strikes Back. I mean, it's the third movie. They've already kind of cemented the character, so there's no character exposition really. There is, but they really kind of focus on one, maybe two characters at a time in all of this. So it's some people in space that are on a mission to save one of their friends, and yeah, that's pretty much what it is. And also, some shit happens in between. It's kind of hard to do a non-spoiler version of this and not spoil some stuff, in the meantime. So I'm just going to get down to it. Is it worth your time to see it in the theater? No, it isn't. It's nice, but it wasn't one of those. There was something that was lacking out of this, and I don't know if it was just the fact that James Gunn has now gone over to Warner Brothers and is going to be the DC studio head, and was kind of had his time split, or the cast was disgruntled because James Gunn is leaving, and so they're like, I'm never working for Marvel again. At least a good majority of them, or what it was, but there was some kind of palpable, I don't know, there was something that was missing off of this. And it kind of it kind of felt right. I mean, it was okay in spots, and but for the most part, it wasn't worth my time on this to see in the theater. Mork says, worth my time at the movies. Nah, Disney Plus for sure. Yeah, exactly. Disney Plus. Yes, I agree. Um, and the High Evolutionary, by the way, as a villain, I thought was kind of wasted in this. And I'll get into that in the spoiler version of all of this. But yeah, so that's where we're going to leave off on that. Again, the non-spoiler version is going to be pretty shitty because, again, if you haven't seen the first two movies, what's the point? So let's get into it, shall we? Spoiler alert, I am going to spoil the movie. If you haven't seen the movie, go and watch it. Come on back. This will be a video. You can comment down below in the comment section. All right, giving you enough time to pause, whatever you need to do. Okay. We're good on that. You know the drill by now. Um, so the whole thing, this all focuses on Rocket, and where Rocket came from. Because remember, in the first two movies, Rocket always really doesn't want to talk about everything that happened to him, how he got his implants, all this kind of stuff. Never wants to talk about it at all. And um, we find out that he was actually an experiment. He was experimented on by someone called the High Evolutionary, and he's done this to other animals as well. Tons of animals. He's trying to make a quote unquote perfect society, if you will, a perfect universe. And um, we get to see Rocket's background where he was a raccoon. We finally find out that he's a raccoon from Earth, and was in a cage. He was selected. He was just grabbed as a baby and experimented on, and that made him smarter. And for the High Evolutionary actually used him in order to further his experiments, to make animals into higher beings, if you will, intellectually. And also he evolved them is what he did. And he has this place called Counter Earth that he has populated with all these animal creations. Also, he's responsible for, you know, Adam Warlock, who shows up to this as well. Um, the that whole group of people, the sovereigns, and so supposedly he evolved them as well. Uh, Also, the Animan has been thrown out there. That name was thrown out there. Counter Earth, by the way, if you don't know what Counter Earth is, on Disney Plus, there's a great animated Spider-Man series, and I'm blanking on the name right now. It's not Spectacular Spider-Man. But it's set in the 90s, but it actually takes place on Counter Earth, and the High Evolutionary is the bad guy, and Spider-Man is there, and yeah, so um, that's what this alludes to, is this Counter Earth, and so basically they need to save Rocket because Rocket's been injured so badly he can't use med packs because of the implants. The implants have safeguards on them that will kill him if they try to operate on him, and he will die if he doesn't get operated on. So they need the passcode, in order to save Rocket. That's really what they need. It's a video game puzzle, is really what it is. You need to go find the codes from the bad guy in order to save, your friend. And that's what the High Evolutionary is. He's the big boss in the video game here. Um, as a theory, as the I'm trying to think of a right word, the right phrasing for this. As a concept, the High Evolutionary is a really evil person, right? Because of course he is doing animal experimentations. He is just blowing up entire worlds that he's like, nope, that one's not good enough, and he just destroys it. He creates a world and destroys it, creates it, destroys it, creates it, destroys it, that kind of thing, all to create the perfect world, if you will. That would be horrifying in and of itself, but we get so little of the High Evolutionary himself interacting with the heroes that we never feel that they are in danger. He doesn't become a villain in the normal sense of, where Kang, for example, Kang is a villain who is interacting with our heroes on multiple levels. He is after them, he is trying to kill them. Well, he also wants, some of them to free his ass from, the quantum realm and quantum mania, things of that nature. That is a bad guy. Whereas here, the High Evolutionary, he's pretty much just content to do his experiments and really does not care about the people that are looking for him for that code. And that is where it becomes kind of boring. I mean, your movie is only as good as your villain, as your antagonist, right? And this antagonist was fairly boring. And that's why I can't recommend it, because it was just kind of, he was there. I mean, the last 20 minutes or so, 30 minutes of the movie, that was where he was actually interacting with Rocket a lot. And that is where you get more of the evilness, if you will. Um, but it was too little too late at that point. Um, and then add in the whole malaise, if you will, of the other characters, where, Gamora, of course, does not remember who she was because she's not the same person that fell in love with Peter Quill in the other timeline. Well, not the other timeline, but the other Gamora. She is from a different timeline. And Nebula is a different person now. She is pretty much I guess you could say, mother figure for a lot of people to move things around. Drax and Mantis are just fucking stupid. They really are. It's gotten to the point where they just were annoying more than anything else, and you kind of wanted them to die. And then Peter Quill, out of all of this, is just was he even in the movie? I mean, he could have just been left out of this movie, and you still would have had the rest of the cast pull it off. I mean, because Peter Quill's character wasn't necessary to any of this. He really wasn't, other than him pining after Gamora. So yeah, that's where we're at here. Uh, Bet We Were Fun was, it was an okay line, Morks is talking about Gamora. Um, you know, she's looking at a picture. Basically, she's talking about her and the other her and Peter Quill, and saying that, no, I bet we were fun. And he says, yeah, we were, kind of thing. And it was interesting, but not a great line. The whole thing with Adam Warlock. So Adam Warlock in the comics is actually a much bigger deal, and he's a much more important character. And the way they made him here was just kind of a buffoon. And sure, he has powers and whatnot, but they were kind of downplayed, if you will. I mean, this is a cosmic character that can go one on one with the Silver Surfer, and they basically he can go one on one with Thanos. And yeah, it just was he was horribly represented. Uh, and actually, he was horribly cast too. I'm going to say that right now. Just absolutely horribly cast. And if anything, that's the legacy we're going to be left with this movie. Unfortunately, I like Poulter. There we go. In different things, in comedies and whatnot. I didn't like him here. He just Yes, I know he was doing a comedic take on Adam Warlock, but it sucked. That's all I'm gonna say. I just sucked. Plain and simple. Um, yeah. And I can't find anything that was really like stand out fun. There was just a lot of jumbled when I'm thinking back on it. I watched it Thursday, so almost a week ago. Well, yeah, almost a week ago here. And it still is a jumble of scenes, if you will, that were thrown together to kind of have fun with cameos and whatnot. So there's a lot of cameos in this. Nathan Fillion makes a cameo. The girl who played Ratcatcher in Suicide Squad, makes a cameo. James Gunn's wife makes a cameo. Pretty much anybody who's worked with James Gunn at one point or another makes a cameo in this movie. And that's great and everything. I don't mind that, but tighten up the story. Have a better story for this. This story was kind of I mean, other than Rocket's story, the rest of the everyone else's stories were just kind of And I mean, at the end of it, everyone breaks up. I mean, Quill ends up going to Earth to go and visit his granddad, which of course he hasn't seen since he's been abducted. Um, Mantis decides that she's going to go off and find herself because she's been working for everybody else at this point. Uh, Nebula, of course, is going to stay on Nowhere and actually just direct Nowhere and make sure that the citizens of Nowhere have direction, if you will. Drax is going to stay there as well because of the kids that they rescued from the High Evolutionary. He is a good father. Yeah, Nebula was was actually really good in this. Out of anybody Nebula was the best character, quite honestly, the best portrayed character and the most evolved character out of all of this story. Um, but Drax was just annoying as usual. Yeah, Jar Jar Drax. I agree with you, Popeye. Uh, I I wasn't gonna, until you brought that up, I agree with you, Popeye Pliskin, that, Jar Jar Drax is exactly it. Just kind of bad, and I mean, I know Dave Batista talks a lot of shit about Marvel, but then he also says, "They gave me my first job," all this kind of yeah, it was bad. I mean, he's become basically in volume 2, he became a horrible punchline is really what it was. And, I would have rather just had Drax be killed off, quite honestly. At first, I thought they were gonna kill him off in this movie, and they didn't. No one dies, by the way, in this. Uh, that's the other thing is that no one dies in this. There are no stakes in this. Um, and that's fine that, none of the original cast dies. They go their separate ways, and Gamora goes back to the Ravagers. Um, Groot. The one cool thing I did like about this is at the end we hear Groot says, "I love you guys," right? He says that line, and we find out that we've now been included. Yes, exactly. We learned Groot, as Mork says. We finally learned Groot speak, which was kind of cool. I mean, it was nice. Um, that was probably the only thing I liked out of this. Uh, well, I mean, so Rocket's other cellmates, if you will, Lila, the otter, Teef, the walrus in a wheelchair kind of thing, and Floor, who's a bunny with spider legs and this weird metal mask. That whole thing was all tragic as well. I mean, it, it's an interesting story. But I really would have liked to have seen another version of this that was done in the comics where Lila is actually an equal of Rocket, and she is actually works with them. They actually have a uh, a partnership, a love affair, that kind of thing. That whole thing that was actually in the comics. Lila is a character from the comics as well. As a matter of fact, the very first Guardians of the Galaxy, when they're on the Nova Corps prison, and you see known aliases popping up for everybody as they are doing the sci-fi version of the rap sheet, if you will. And you see on Rocket's rap sheet, known accomplices. It says Lila and Groot. Yes, so Lila is there. So how would they know that Lila is an accomplice of Rocket Raccoon if she is already dead by the time he escapes from the High Evolutionary? Obviously she's not out there, roaming the galaxy with him doing jobs and whatnot. So that would have been a better story. Multiverse, yes, exactly. Morks. Good God. Um, and then we'll talk about the end credits here too. The end credits, we get a new Guardians of the Galaxy group headed by Rocket. Rocket is now the captain. Kraglin is in part of this. Nebula is part of this. Um, Groot, of course, as well. And then, of course, we have one of the little girls who was one of the High Evolutionaries' test subjects or new batch of creation there. And I couldn't find myself really caring about it, to tell you the truth. Um, and at the very end credits, we have Peter Quill sitting with his grandfather at breakfast. Basically, he's reading the paper. The funny thing was the paper has about Kevin Bacon talking about him being abducted by aliens, which happened in the holiday episode. If you watch the holiday episode on Disney Plus, which is infinitely better than this movie, by the way, go and watch the holiday special on Disney Plus. That's such a much better movie and so much more fun than this movie. And it's shorter too. I mean, it's an hour, a little over an hour, or something like that. And it was so much better than this. I don't know what happened, in between all of this. So again, like I said, I don't know if James Gunn just spread himself thin and it didn't have that energy to it anymore. So it kind of petered out. It really did. How do we fix a screw up multiverse? Yeah, pretty much. So, yeah, not worth your time. Um, not worth your time in the theater is you can watch it on Disney Plus when it comes out on Disney Plus, which I don't know what the time frame is now going to be for that. I know that Quantumania comes out here fairly soon on the 17th. So we've got that. And that just came out, what was it, in February, March? March. So 2 months. So I guess that's what we have is a 2 month time period. And it's not superhero fatigue, okay? It's really not superhero fatigue. It's writing. And let's also talk about this too. This movie doesn't tie into the rest of the Marvel universe, the rest of the Marvel universe storyline, I guess you could say. It's a standalone, if you will. And I kind of missed that actually of being tied into the rest of the Marvel universe. I really would have liked at least a tidbit of some stuff. Have Adam Warlock be something, in this tied into the Marvel universe somehow, or having a reason for him being there, other than just being a punchline. Um, no, instead it just, yeah, yeah. Popeye Pliskin said, "Looks like Kang is going to be recast." Maybe that's a rumor, Popeye, and that's only one site that's actually talking about that, and it's an unreliable site too. At that, so never ever count your rumors before they hatch. So I don't think Jonathan Majors is going to be recast unless what happens in court goes badly. Then yes, but Disney is still smarting from what happened to Johnny Depp, and yeah, they had to eat their words on some stuff, and they had to backtrack on some stuff, and supposedly that now if you want rumors like you know good rumors, they're talking about that he's coming back as Captain Jack Sparrow for the next Pirates of the Caribbean movie, which had already been in pre-production kind of stuff. So there you go on that one. But anyway, going back to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, um, I'm a fan of James Gunn. Don't get me wrong. I like James Gunn's stuff. I really do. And this just didn't do it for me. This is the first for me that I'll say this much. Slither, I liked, but again, it wasn't the greatest movie for me. So yeah, I know there's a lot of people that swear by Slither and they just didn't do it for me. Same thing with this one. This was something that needed a bit more workshopping to do. And again, like I said, I don't know if it's because he was, impacted for time. Um, I know he was probably in talks with Warner Brothers just as he was doing this one, and so he had to work fast on it. I'm fairly sure that's what happened. It's just too much on his plate all at the same time, and he got married too, and all of this. So, yeah, there's a lot of stuff that was going on in all of this. So anyway, not worth your time in the theaters. Watch it on Disney Plus. So, with that said, what else do I have going on for the rest of this week? Well, it's fairly light this week because there's not a lot of shit out there. So, Saturday I'm going to be off. Sunday is going to be the Sunday edition of Saturday Morning Blast Off, where I take the genre news of the week and any genre stuff you guys want to talk about. We talk about, or it could be a spoiler alert, one of the two. I don't know what we're going with there. We'll see what happens. Next week is going to be up for grabs because I'm going to be moving. So yeah, I mean, you're probably not going to see too much difference in the background here, but yes, I am moving fairly soon. So that's the reason why I've been bouncing around, times and all that stuff. And yes, I'm more excited I'm moving. I'm tired of living above the barbecue. Is really what it is. There's a barbecue literally right below my balcony that is pretty horrible. So anyway, Mark says thinks it's just because they hire writers that can get their info from their characters from Wikipedia. Nah, I don't think so. James Gunn is the one who's been writing this stuff. So Popeye Pliskin says in the lead up to the film, they showed so many scenes and many different trailers. Yeah, and they were kind of teasing that someone was going to die or that multiple people were going to die, and then no one dies. And um, yeah, there was just no stakes to it. Like I said, it felt like a video game, and it even had a video game, quest, if you will. And that's why this movie doesn't do it for me. But I mean, I'm not saying I hated it. There's parts of it I liked. I mean, there's some cool concepts here, like a grown, uh, you know, world where people are working in there and doing experiments and whatnot. That was kind of funny. No thanks, Marks. Yeah, I don't even want to visit Florida. I'm sorry, but yeah, and I'm not going to get into politics on that one because you know why I don't want to be there. It's because of your governor. Yeah. But anyway, and other things too. That's just yeah. So, with that said, what else? Like I said, I already told you what's going on for the rest of this week. I'm gonna plug. Why not? If you like what you see here, like, share, and subscribe. If you're still on the fence about subscribing, take a look at the video that pops up at the very end here. YouTube takes the algorithms, all the stuff you've been watching, and tries to match it as best as possible to one of the videos in my vast video library and pops it up here just for you. And if you like what you see there, please hit that like button and the subscribe button and all that kind of stuff down here and the share and all that stuff down there. And remember, I am over on YouTube Music now. So if you want to listen to podcasts or you just want to listen to me speak on this, I don't know why, it's up there as well. Popeye Pliskin says, "Where do you think the legendary Star Lord will reappear?" Oh, you know what? I actually forgot I was talking about that. The end cut of that, the end credit scene, where they said the legendary Star Lord will return. Where is he going to reappear? Um, that's a good question, Popeye. I don't know exactly. He's probably gonna show up in cameos, if anything, because, of course, we have the Secret Wars popping up. Yeah, exactly like Mark says, well, and I don't know which Secret Wars we're getting. So there are 2 different versions of Secret Wars. There are Secret Wars from the '80s and '90s, which was, the Skrulls, which you are getting some of the Skrulls, and then there was the Secret Wars from, 2010s, somewhere around there. Jonathan Hickman did that, where it's the multiverses colliding, and that was a different where you had an amalgam of different timelines colliding together, and then uh, different versions of different timelines actually coexist in the same world at the end of all of this. So I'm thinking that's what we're going to get because we're going multiverse at this point. So I think that's where we're heading with all of this, and also having involved in it too makes sense that that's where we're going with this. Um, I don't know where else you'd bring in Star Lord. There's gonna be some more Avengers movies, of course, so he could be in the new Avengers movies, and they would be stupid not to call it the new Avengers because that's really what it is. Um, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of Chris Pratt either. Chris Pratt's kind of, you know, you can tell he didn't even work out for this movie. He just kind of let himself go. He was kind of puffy. Yeah. You're not just overuse. He's just I remember him as a fat little kid from what was it? Not Seventh Heaven. What was that? CW show. It's a CW show with Treat Williams as a preacher, and he was the teenage neighbor of. And here's this fat little kid that was in there, and when he was first announced as Star Lord, I was like, the fat kid from the CW, really? Okay, yeah. Yeah, I know a lot of people know him for Parks and Recreation, but before Parks and Recreation, he was younger and he was a teenager on this show that Treat Williams did. And now I got to remember, I can't remember what it is, what the name of the movie is that Treat or the show that Treat Williams did. So now I have to look it up. He was a preacher. Uh, I love how they say Treat Williams actor Deep Rising, which hasn't been out since like the 80s or something like that. Uh, it's just so far back. I'm going through. I'm going through. Oh, for fuck's sake. They just don't have, uh, as an actor. Yeah, I mean, you got to go way back to almost, I think it was early 2000s, somewhere around there. Uh, Maybe it was Seventh Heaven. I don't know. I think Seventh Heaven was the other one. Everwood. There we go. Everwood. That's what it was. He was a doctor, not a preacher. Everwood. So that was the name of the series. Was called Everwood. Ran from 2002 to 2006, and that's where we get. So Emily Van Camp, who plays Agent 13, she is supposed to be, of course, the niece of Peggy Carter. She was also in Everwood along with Chris Pratt. She played Chris Pratt's character's sister. So they were brother and sister in that. So they are both in Marvel films now, which is kind of funny. But yeah, Chris Pratt was this fat little teenager in that. Bright Abbott was his name was Bright. Talk about miscast on that one. But yeah, One Tree Hill. But this is back when the CW was called the WB or something like that, I think is what it was. That's where I remember him from. And that's why when they named him as Star-Lord, I'm like, really? The fat kid? And then, he started working out and all that stuff. And which I guess when they give you millions of dollars, that's what happens. You hire trainers and you actually work for it. Like you're going to earn that $1 million, millions of dollars, I should say. But yeah, and Dave Bautista, I don't need to see anymore. I really don't. I'm tired of him. I really am. I'm sorry. Karen Gillian, awesome. Uh, no, it might have been the UPN. Yeah, it might have been UPN Marks. I think that's what it was at that point because it was initially it was called the WB, then it became the UPN, then it became CW. Yeah, the CW is what it was after they merged. But yeah, I did like the cameo of Howard the Duck in this. Um, There's some other little cameos here and there as well that were kind of cool. It was cameos from all the different movies. And again, it was the final movie that he was going to do for Marvel and the final Guardians of the Galaxy movie. So he brought everybody in and all of this. Them playing poker was great. And the whole thing with Cosmo being called a bad dog, that was actually kind of a cute little bit too. I like that. And finally bringing Cosmo's power set into all of this too, the telekinesis. I'm glad that was actually finally done. That was the only thing that was actually great. Pete Davidson had a cameo. Yeah, I heard he had a cameo as well. I really don't care. Talk about someone who's overused. Pete Davidson. I mean, Jesus Christ. That guy just, he needs to disappear like, what's his face? Chris Kattan from Saturday Night Live. Every now and then, Saturday Night Live characters, or Saturday Night Live actors, they disappear after they were on Saturday Night Live. Chris Kattan, one of them, disappeared. I think he did like 2 or 3 movies and gone. Um, yeah. So David Spade, he tried to, exist a little while and then he's gone. Uh, you know, Snyder, gone. That kind of stuff. That's what needs to happen to Pete Davidson. He just needs to kind of disappear from my screen for a little while, like about 30 or 40 years. And I think that should be fine. But anyway, I digress. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to let you guys go for the night. Thank you to everybody who joined me tonight in the chat. And thank you if you made it this far in the video. I already did all the closing stuff and all that stuff, so I'm not going to bore you with that again. Thank you, everyone. I will see you guys again on Sunday. Until then, don't let the door hit your ass on the way out. Otherwise, you may bitch and moan about a movie just because, that's what fanboys do. We bitch about stuff that we actually are passionate about. So thanks, everyone. Oh, he's in the new Transformers movie too. Great, because I'm not going to go see that. Thanks, everybody. I will see you again on Sunday. Have a good rest of your night. Stay safe, be well, take care, and stay safe out there, everyone. Thanks. Have a good rest of your night. Good night, everyone.